This story answers a question. Why do I write? Why do I work so hard to get these stories down? Why do I come here and tell these stories? Let me try to explain. For me, it's the ultimate test of the brain. It's a gathering of wits and agility, a feat of movement so quick, a slip of the feet, a dance step, one another, a flash, an idea, and the ultimate flutter of words. Words, words, rushing to some stories, and I am there with foil, a fencer, a parry, a thrust. I am in the adventure. Swept away by the torrent, the flood, I am in it so deep. It is part of my blood. Momentarily it lives, and when it is gone, I lust, I long, I crave for another, and yet that may not be. Perhaps this writing, this need to tell it, is really a search for me, for it forces me to think back, to recall, to remember. Down dusty, creaky cellar stairs is where I had been sent. For to my Aunt Celia, I seemed to represent dust and dirt and a 9-year-old who might in some way hurt her precious home. So to the basement I was sent alone to explore, while behind me they closed the door. Content that I was well away, in the kitchen they would stay to discuss the problems of the day, for sofas were rarely sat upon. Yet even though I was alone, I sensed that the basement would be far more fascinating than my aunt's Please Do Not Touch Me home, an austere and provincial museum, much like Aunt Celia herself, with unattractive items upon every shelf, for Celia was a large, square-legged woman, a woman of little grace, who wore her suffering upon her face, and I think the thing that might describe her best was her constant grimace of distress. She was so unlike my mother. She had no gaiety, no girlishness, no humor, and while the reasons now have been obscured by time and only subject to rumor, I still wanted to know. For Celia was rich, I knew. This was true. She had married her second cousin, a man I called Uncle Lou, who manufactured women's bathing suits. And this couple, I tell you, was really a pair of beauts. As big as my Aunt Celia was, that's how small my Uncle Lou. He could come to our house and sit for hours without saying a single word. My aunt did all the talking, and although it seemed absurd, he never seemed to care. His short legs never touched the ground but dangled from our overstuffed chair. His huge cigar seemed to take him away on the smoke rings he blew in the air. He was a mystery, an enigma. I could sit and watch him for hours and wonder what he was thinking, but my Uncle Lou, as I said before, was never in the speaking, so I didn't know, and I wasn't looking for a clue, but what I found in the basement that night was the very essence of my Uncle Lou. At first, the room was dark and dingy and void of any pleasures. I mean, there were only some cardboard boxes and apparently no pirate treasures when suddenly something startling seemed to penetrate the gloom. Something high up on some boxes in the back part of the room, a carving, a wooden carving, and made with incredible grace. A man in a wagon whipping 4 horses, and the horses seemed to plunge off into space. I had to climb high to get it and carefully brought it down, and once I examined it more closely, I was sure that I had found a treasure. A prize, not something you kept hidden away from admiring eyes. If it were mine, or were it mine, I know where it would be. It would be the top shelf place of honor for all my friends to see. I tell you, it was far better than any store-bought toy. And just looking at it for some strange reason filled my heart with joy. I had to show it to my father. I had to show him what I had. And carrying it carefully up the stairs, I took it to my dad. His face lit up when he saw it. He was awed. You could see it in his eyes. He understood what I had found. He understood the prize.
Do you know who made this?
He began to say. But like a roaring rhino out of the bush, my Aunt Celia saw it and grabbed the prize away.
This was your Uncle Lou's boyhood foolishness and certainly shouldn't be here. I'll put it back where it belongs. And I want to thank you, dear, for being such a good little boy. And maybe if I think of it one day, I'll buy you a little toy.
On the way home that evening, in the family's old Ford car, I looked over at my father, who they said played a sweet guitar. And in his youth, I knew, had dreams so great and grand, and for a couple of years actually lived them leading his musical band. But instability in children and the needs of a loving wife and the necessity to maintain what was considered a normal life forced him to put his guitar away. And while there were some pictures and that guitar, I never heard him play, nor did I ever hear him say he was sorry about the race that he had run. But that night, on the way home, I knew he was thinking about past glimmers in the sun and about Uncle Lou's boyhood genius hidden in a basement far away and about what both men had given up. Well, who could really say? For at that time, both men were relegated to the task of petty schemes. And the only advice he ever gave me was that night when he turned and he said,
Son, don't you ever betray your dreams.